Now, Timothy was a member of our kingdom, a young man that Paul wanted to go with him. In the 16th chapter of the book of Acts, he circumcised Timothy because of the Jews. Now, why would Paul circumcise Timothy? Because his mother was a Jew. Now, you Bible worshippers keep saying all scriptures are given by inspiration of God. You are so stupid. Now get this for this time. You are so stupid. Timothy was a Jew. He had lived under the law, but he had not fulfilled the law. His daddy was a Greek and never had him circumcised. Well, he couldn't testify to the Jews because he hadn't been circumcised. So Paul took him and had him circumcised. Paul was a man that says, if you're circumcised, Christ profits you nothing. But it profited Timothy because Timothy was a Jew. Get that in your bone head.
Timothy was working with Paul, ministering the gospel to the Jews, and they would go in the temple, and the Jews wouldn't receive him if he wasn't circumcised, and it was against the law, literally, for him to go to the temple. So they were trying to gain the Jews for Jesus, and so he had him circumcised.
Now this is simple as falling off a log backwards. Circumcision don't profit you nothing. That was under the old covenant. But you see, Timothy had lived under the old covenant. His mother and him taught him the scriptures. But he hadn't fulfilled the law. He hadn't been circumcised. So Paul had him circumcised. But he wouldn't circumcise Titus. Titus was a Greek. So now get this. You think, oh man, all scriptures was given by inspiration. That's right. God put them in the ark. They was written by his finger. There's nothing wrong with the law. It was holy. It was good. It came from God. But we couldn't keep it. We're in the flesh. You can't keep the law. Timothy had been under the law. Now I'm going to show you that he's more than just under the law. He's also under the Holy Ghost. Now get this. He was circumcised. He had studied the scriptures. Paul had studied the scriptures. But now the scriptures was gone. They were banished. Jesus fulfilled the law at the cross of Christ. So understand this. Timothy is an honorable man. And don't say that he went by scriptures. Timothy did not go by scriptures no more. This was over for him after he got baptized in the Holy Ghost. But Paul was telling him, now you Jew people are the salvation. The salvation comes of the Jews. Timothy, all these scriptures, you know where Christ came from. Christ came from the Jews. They brought forth the Christ. And it was inspired, but not in action anymore.
Timothy had been raised by his mother, who was a Jew, and his grandmother, who reared him, and they taught him the law. They had lived under the law. They were Jewish people, and it was a schoolmaster to bring people to Christ. And so they taught him the Holy Scriptures. There was nothing wrong with the Holy Scriptures.
Now notice this. Get this. How does Bible worshippers read 1st and 2nd Timothy and never see this? All you ever see is all scriptures is given by inspiration. Like the scriptures are going to save you. Scriptures won't save you. Hey, neglect not the gift in you, Timothy. Neglect not the gift in you. What's Paul telling him? Why do you miss that, Bible worshippers? Why do you miss that when he says, in the 1st Timothy, it says, neglect not the gift that's in you by the laying on of my hands and the word of prophecy. So you see, then Timothy become inspired. The scriptures were inspired, but now Timothy is inspired. Can you see the two? He was a Jew. Paul was a Jew. He lived under the law. All of the apostles had lived under the law, but now they no longer lived under the law. Paul told Peter, said, if you live after the manner of Gentiles, why do you compel the Gentiles to live after the Jews? You see, a Gentile, which had not the law, when they was baptized in the Holy Ghost, they done the things that was contained in the law, and they become a law unto themselves. Now, Timothy, neglect not the gift in you. Why you keep saying, all scripture's given by his friend? If you touch God's ark in the old days, you die. I can tear up Bibles today and I don't die because the Bible's not inspired. The Holy Ghost inspires us.
Paul told Timothy to stir up the gift of God that is in you. He was telling him, live after the Spirit, walk in the Spirit, talk in the Spirit, be led of the Spirit. It's the gift of God that He sent to us. Jesus gave His life so we could have this gift. This gift regenerates us into sons of God. And He writes His law in us by the Spirit. You know instinctively by the Spirit in you what God's will is for you. And he was telling Timothy to live by the Spirit.
Now in the book of 1st and 2nd Timothy, tells him 3 or 4 times, stir up the gift of God in you. Neglect not the gift that's in you. You're kept by the Holy Ghost. Look at that in 2 Timothy, the 1st chapter. You're kept by the Holy Ghost, which dwells in us. And all you bonehead Bible words for say, all Scriptures is given by inspiration. Yes, he lived under the Old Testament. He had lived under the law. Paul had lived under the law. Apollos taught the Gentiles how salvation comes. They had been saved by grace. They didn't know the law. They didn't know where Christ had come from. They didn't know who brought forth the King. They didn't know about the Virgin Mary. But now Timothy knew, and it profitable to him, because now he could tell you the history of the church. He could tell you how God brought forth Abraham and made promises to Abraham and Moses and the children of Israel, because he was part of them. His mother was a Jew. Now he's under the Holy Ghost. So quit saying all Scriptures are given by inspiration of God like you're saying the Bible will save you. The Bible won't save you, you lunkheads. Quit saying all Scripture is given by inspiration of God. Sure it was, but the law was weak to the flesh, and it could not save you. You had to sacrifice a sheep every year.
And the Scriptures were profitable for doctrine, reproof, correction, instructions. They were a schoolmaster to bring us to the seed till the seed would come. It was to control the Jewish people's flesh, that the seed would come through that race of people until the seed came. When Christ gave His life on the cross, then He sent back the Holy Ghost. That's His seed in us. And there's nothing wrong with the law except that you can't keep it.
Now here's the main important thing. Like she was just saying, can the Scriptures save you? What difference does it make if they're inspired and was inspired? And if you touch the ark, you die. They can't save you. Get that through that thick skull of yours, you Bible-worshiping thugs. You teach lies all the time. Like, oh, read the Scriptures, they're inspired. They're not inspired no more. I tear up Bibles all the time. They was inspired under the old covenant. When the Holy Ghost fell on the day of Pentecost, here's what Jesus done. When He shed His blood, you had forgiveness of sin. When He shed His blood, the Holy Ghost was poured out. When He shed His blood, the old saints rose from the dead. Timothy, the Scriptures won't raise you from the dead. Timothy, the Scriptures won't give you the Holy Ghost. Timothy, the Scriptures won't bring you redemption, but they were inspired to bring us to Christ. They were inspired. God was holy. So when He wrote on this finger, He was holy. So He had holy Scriptures. And so Holy Scriptures was good up until Christ. Now it's the Holy Ghost. Get that through your head. All Scriptures are inspired, but they're gone with the cross of Christ. Now, Holy Ghost people are inspired. This is the temple of God.